Leading the Nightline tonight with our international correspondent in West Asia. For years, the alliance between the US and Israel has been sold as an unbreakable bond and absolute strategic certainty. But that narrative is now collapsing under the weight of aggressive abuse from the Trump administration and a historic shift in American public opinion. In the final part of this special report, RT correspondent Charlotte Debensky reports from Jerusalem on why the personal rift between Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu is no longer just diplomatic noise, but a fundamental threat to Israel's long-term survival.
Trump has criticized Israel in the past. Just last year, he also, in another foul-mouthed tirade, savaged Israel for striking Iran, saying that that violated the ceasefire.
Israel, do not drop those bombs. If you do, it is a major violation. Bring your pilots home now.
Well, it wouldn't be the last time that Trump let slip that his relationship with Netanyahu was becoming more than a little bit fraught. A few months just later, he was incandescent with anger after Israel struck Doha. Netanyahu was forced to offer a direct apology to Qatar. And then, back in 2024, there were also suggestions that the relationship is not as buddy-buddy as Netanyahu often likes to make out, with the US president openly saying Israel was losing the PR war over Gaza.
They're releasing the most heinous, most horrible tapes of buildings falling down, and people are imagining there's a lot of people in those buildings or people in those buildings, and they don't like it. And I don't know why they release, wartime shots like that. I guess it makes them look tough. But to me, it doesn't make them look tough. They're losing the PR war, and they're losing it big.
All of this is mounting up and filtering down into how US citizens view Israel. For decades, support was solid. Now it's falling away at an alarming rate. One poll showing 60% of US adults now have an unfavorable view when it comes to Israel, and that's up from 53% just last year. Another poll showing support moving towards the Palestinians, away from Israelis. And some US media are now suggesting that Netanyahu's actions have actually torched US support for Israel for the whole generation to come. Well, commentators and former CIA agents are openly questioning this once vital partnership, saying it's in grave peril. Here in Israel, this trend is also making waves because nearly 8 in 10 Israelis are worried about the decline in the US support for their own country. All of the while, Israel likes to make a big show of its closeness with the US, with its closeness with Trump, with billboards thanking Donald Trump, calling him the next Cyrus the Great. This is a Babylonian king who's famous for freeing Jews from captivity. The highways up and down the country decorated with US flags hung up alongside Israeli ones. Now, they were ready to welcome Trump, except he's now not coming. And all of this doesn't bode well for a relationship that's been sold as being so special, so full of trust. It's fraying very publicly at the seams. And if it comes apart, where does that leave Israel? Because without the US's total support, the question is, can this nation survive? Charlotte Debensky for RT in Jerusalem.
Staying with international developments, Indonesia is moving to calm the global shipping industry. Jakarta is officially rejecting the idea of imposing tolls on the Strait of Malacca, seeking to reassure trade partners after recent remarks sparked diplomatic concern. Finance Minister Purbayayuthi Sadewa is clarifying that there are no plans to introduce tariffs on one of the world's most strategic waterways. The clarification follows a wave of uncertainty after the minister initially floated the idea of monetizing Indonesia's position in the strait. However, the government now says it remains fully committed to international maritime law and the principle of unhindered transit. Officials are echoing assurances from the Foreign Ministry, stating that Indonesia will adhere to the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. Under this global framework, archipelago states must guarantee freedom of navigation without imposing transit fees on international vessels. Meanwhile, Jakarta is renewing its call for a formal United Nations investigation following the death of another Indonesian peacekeeper in Lebanon. Foreign Ministry spokesman Vard Nabi is condemning the attack, insisting the UN conduct a thorough probe to ensure full accountability for the casualty.
The United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, or UNIFIL, confirms that 31-year-old Corporal Rico Pramudia succumbed to critical injuries sustained in a projectile explosion. The mission is urging all parties to uphold their obligations under international law and guarantee the safety of UN personnel. This latest incident marks the fourth Indonesian peacekeeper killed since hostilities escalated in the region. Jakarta continues to demand that peacekeeping missions be protected from direct military engagements as the conflict in southern Lebanon intensifies.
On our nation's economy, the Malaysian government is considering a reduction in road tax for diesel vehicles to offset the impact of recent price adjustments. Prime Minister Dato Sri Anwar Ibrahim says the move is intended to ease the financial burden on users, particularly those in sectors still heavily reliant on diesel. Anwar has tasked the Transport Ministry to develop a viable mechanism for the cut in the near term, acknowledging that while fuel prices remain high, tax adjustments are a feasible alternative.
Bila dengar daripada masalah diesel, tadi saya bincang dengan Menteri Pengangkutan, so Luke kata cari jalan, dan saya minta Kementerian Pengangkutan, KSU untuk mencari jalan sekarang supaya dalam tempoh terdekat turunkan cukai jalan bagi kenderaan diesel. Itu boleh. Turun harga minyak sekarang ni tak mampu kita. Tapi cukai jalan itu boleh.
Anwar, who also serves as Finance Minister, reiterated that the government will maintain targeted subsidies for RON 95 petrol under the Budi Madani program. Beyond domestic policy, the Prime Minister highlighted Malaysia's independent foreign policy, stating the nation remains open to cooperation with the US, China, and West Asia despite rising global tensions.
Staying in the region, we head to northern Sarawak. Kuala Baram is poised to become a major economic catalyst for Sarawak, with plans for a new deep-sea port to serve as the state's primary export gateway. Premier Sarawak, Dr. Tan Sri Abang Jari Dunabeng says the move will strengthen trade and transform MIRI into a dynamic hub for both economics and tourism in northern Sarawak. The Premier notes that previous hydraulic flow constraints at the Baram estuary had long hindered port development, limiting MIRI's capacity as a maritime trade centre.
Abang Johari says the new export gateway has also the potential to target specific sectors to boost the local economy.
Untuk kita menempatkan pelabuhan MIRI itu yang akan menjadi exit point untuk para ekspor yang kita keluarkan dari MIRI. Khasnya kelapa sawit, duanya ialah timber, ketiganya ialah produk-produk baru yang kita hasilkan di kawasan Hinterland MIRI.
Meanwhile, Sarawak is also fast-tracking infrastructure improvements at Niah Caves and Gunung Mulu National Park to drive high-value tourism at its 2 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Current projects include upgrading route links from Miri to Marudi and extending connectivity to Mulu via Long Panai and Long Lama, potentially cutting travel time to 2 hours.
Kita nak membangunkan infrastruktur yang sudah ada, nak kita connect. Satunya ialah Taman Negara. Siada dalam dunia itu ada sedikit tempat 2 Taman Negara UNESCO. Tak cek, si banyak. Sarawak ada 2 di Miri. 2 Taman Negara UNESCO di Miri itu. Satunya Mulu, 2-nya Niah. Dan mesti ada akses untuk kita nak pergi ke Niah dan Mulu.
Turning now to crime and enforcement, Sarawak Customs has seized more than 129 million illicit cigarettes as of March this year, with unpaid duties and taxes estimated at over 7.3 million ringgit. State Customs Deputy Director Abang Zamari Abang Nazarin reveals that cumulative tax losses from similar seizures since 2024 have now surpassed the 96 million ringgit mark. Authorities believe the contraband is being smuggled in from neighbouring countries through a variety of channels.
Pertama, saya nak laporkan tentang recent enforcement cases kita lah. So far daripada untuk tahun ni, bilangan batang rokok yang kita rampas adalah 129,817,968 yang melibatkan duty dan cukai lebih kurang 7.3 juta. Okay. And then sebelum tu pun kalau nak dijumlahkan daripada 2024-25 sehingga sekarang March, cukai yang terlibat adalah 96 juta. 96 juta. Jadi bermakna operasi-operasi kita berjaya mengekang sedikit sebanyak aktiviti penyelundupan rokok.
Officials note that syndicates are avoiding fixed entry points, utilizing both land and sea routes to bypass traditional border security. Meanwhile, department statistics show a sharp upward trend in enforcement, with seizures jumping from 32 million sticks in 2024 to over 97 million last year.
And in a major leadership shift for the nation's top anti-graft body, His Majesty Sultan Ibrahim, King of Malaysia, has appointed Dato' Sri Abdul Halim Aman as the new Chief Commissioner of the MACC. The appointment takes effect on May 13, replacing Tan Sri Azam Baki, whose contract concludes on May 12. Abdul Halim is a former High Court judge who retired from the bench in 2023 after nearly 2 decades of judicial service. Chief Secretary to the Government, Tan Sri Shamsul Azri Abu Bakar, confirms the appointment was made in accordance with the MACC Act 2009. The move follows a recent royal decree. Sultan Ibrahim previously expressed his intention to personally oversee the selection of the Commission's leadership. Recently, Prime Minister Dato' Sri Anwar Ibrahim had submitted a list of eligible candidates to His Majesty prior to the final decision. Retail giant Padini Holdings says it is unaware of any allegations of wrongdoing against the company following a probe by the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission. In a statement released today, the group reveals the MACC investigation targets external counterparties rather than Padini's own operations. The clarification comes after the MACC froze several of the group's bank accounts on April 24th as part of an active investigation. Padini assures customers that day-to-day business remains uninterrupted and all outlets continue to operate as usual. The company has now engaged legal counsel to seek relief and unfreeze the affected accounts. While commencing an internal review, the group reiterates it is cooperating fully with authorities to maintain thorough transparency. I'm Shulch Mato. Thank you for watching and have a good night.